Couple of viewers asked how to deal with Kislev early game enemies, specifically Throt and Azak, especially in early game. First of those enemies you will face will be Throt, and there are a couple of things you have to do before you face him. You need to recruit a second army. This will help you to not control large armies when necessary, and it will provide you with extra firepower, because Skaven are coming in huge numbers, and lots of their units also come with shields, which negate some of small missile fire, so you will definitely need extra archers. So for Skaven specifically, you do not need Kislevite warriors. Just basic Kossars are good enough. Next thing you will need is huge amount of Winds of Magic. This is your only tool that will help you when dealing with huge numbers of both of those factions. So to do this, you will need to spend a couple of turns in the channeling stance with Katarin. You can do this easily by turn 7 or 8. And third thing you should do is to try to pull them out of the settlements, especially major cities. You can fight them in the settlements and not control large armies, but it's easier in the field, and I will show you why. At this stage of campaign, Throt is usually sitting at Fort Ostrosk, while he has 2 more armies nearby, which you can attack. Now there are a couple of things you need to do. You just have to position your units near the edge of the map. There are so many Skaven, you cannot bring enough units to deal with all of them. You have to rout them off the battlefield. Once the unit breaks, it will run to the closest edge of the map, and if they break near the edge of the map, they will quickly leave the battlefield and not rally. If you're an attacker, as you should be, you have the time to wait for your reinforcements. First thing you have to do is to try to pull some of their units early to your front line, and you use Katarin to cast Death Frost on their single entities. This spell is not really cost effective, but it's your best tool in the early game against single entity heroes and characters in general that are on foot. You can kill Skaven single entities in 4 casts of this spell. So Skaven are not dangerous because they are strong, they are really dangerous because of their numbers. If you fight them normally or just run out of ammo, you will get overrun. It's really important to create a deep defensive position, so once your first line breaks, the Skaven will fall onto second line, and then on the next line and the next line. The battle will eventually become a mess. There is no doubt about that, because their single entities will get into your units, they will go through them, they will mess with your formations and so on. So it's really important to have a deep deployment zone and multiple front lines. It's really important to keep your cavalry alive until the end of the battle. You will use them later to chase routing units. By killing off their routing units, you will have much easier time later on. When you start a campaign, you want to immediately start training a Frost Maiden, Lore of Tempest, and you want to take Glacier Blast. This spell is really good against Horde factions. Now the most important thing here to focus is of course Gorich. This is their most dangerous unit in the army. Once you're out of magic, the battle becomes a grind, and you will have to grind them down with your missiles and melee. These small monsters that will get into your formations basically lock your units down in melee. If you can, you should try to focus them down, but you will also do a lot of friendly fire while trying to do so. And of course, their biggest damage dealers are the missile units. So you should try to focus some of your units to shoot into them. You can see now that most of the units are out of ammo or very low on ammo, and this is the biggest problem against Skaven. You can see that they still have a couple of armies behind, and the majority of our units are basically just melee infantry at this point. Even on legendary difficulty, it's much easier to rout them all than to kill them. So it's not about damage, it's mostly about leadership. You have to break them in mass and not try to kill them all. Now the next battle is against same faction, no Throt, but what they have here is Menace Belows. So the number of Menace Belows they will have depends on Skaven corruption. If there is no Skaven corruption, they will have no Menace Belows. If there is high Skaven corruption, they will have up to 6 Menace Belows. So in this battle, near the Hell Pit, we are also pulling them outside of the settlement. Once again, we are attacking them. They will wait for their reinforcements, and also we can wait for our reinforcements. We can use this time to waste their Menace Belows. So to do this, first I delay my reinforcements as much as possible by moving the entry point on the other side of the map. Next, I hide all of my units in the forest and only leave the Katarin, and she is using this time to run around the map. Every 45 seconds, 1 Menace Below will spawn, and eventually they will waste all of their Menace Belows. Only then I will move my entry point on this side of the map where I want the battle to take place, and I will reveal my units, move them over here and set the formation. Here is the first Menace Below, spawned at 45 seconds. It's wasted. Once the reinforcements come and their Menace Belows are spent, you want to use Katarin to snipe any single entities with Death Frost. Also, since I will take battle in this corner, I will drag all of their units on this side of the map, so I have time to deploy my units on this part of the map. So we are taking defensive position over here. Our units from the forest are now getting outside and deploying, and the Katarin will start to snipe enemy heroes and lords. So once again, we want to deploy next to the edge of the map, and we want to deploy deep, same as in previous battle. However, in this battle I will have huge advantage, because now finally I have a really good spell that's amazing against any of those blob factions, and that spell is Hawks of Mishka. This is the vortex that doesn't do friendly damage. So what you want to happen is you want to allow huge numbers of their infantry to collapse on one of your infantry units, blob around them, and then cast Hawks of Mishka near the border of the map. This spell can easily do hundreds of kills with single cast, and all of those units will just rout and leave the battlefield. So this is the moment. You can see now, this wizard will cast Hawks of Mishka over here, and watch what happens. And watch her kills going in damage. This is what you want to happen. So you have mass rout of maybe 6 or 7 Skaven units. They will just leave the battlefield. One cast, 20,000 damage. Now the Hellstorm is going down. Another 50 kills, another 5,000 damage. They are leaving the battlefield. So this is how you win with Kislev once you have the Tempest Mage. Hawks of Mishka is the best spell you can get. It's really good against Skaven and against Greenskins as well. Another Hawks of Mishka is going down. Another bunch of units is broken and left the battlefield. So at this point, this wizard already got 270 kills, 34,000 damage, just by 2 casts. So to summarize, you have to deploy near the edge of the map so that broken units immediately leave the battlefield. Second, at the start of the campaign, you want to immediately start training Frost Maiden of Tempest for the Hawks of Mishka. And finally, you want to spend a couple of turns in the channeling stance before the war, so that you have enough of Winds of Magic once the battle starts. And of course, you want to spec into Death Frost with Katarin for the single entities. Now for the Greenskins, first I have to say, a lot of you said that you have problems with Greenskins. I played maybe 5 or 6 playthroughs of the Katarin early stage of campaign on legendary difficulty, and never once happened that I had trouble with Azag. I'm not sure what you guys are doing, unless you are trying to go after his starting province early, which kinda makes sense because the game is leading you in that direction. Once you take Vitevo and then Fort Jakova, and the next stop naturally looks like Karakangor, but this is a huge trap. You shouldn't do this. You should beeline back and first take out the Throt, and then after that you can go back and kill him, or you can push into north, but you should never really push into the mountains this early. Not only you will be spending a lot of time in these mountains, you will also take attrition in these mountains over here. But if you still want to do it, I managed to pull off one good battle against Azag, which I played twice, and I will show you scenes from both replays using different tactics. Now in this battle against orcs, Kislevite warriors are actually good, because there are a lot of large units, like cavalry or pump wagons, plus there is a Ragnarok spider, and so on. So once you start the fight against Azag, it's definitely a good idea to recruit some Kislevite warriors for your front line, which you do not really need against Skaven. So once again, you want to be the attacker. In first battle, I took this really good defensive position in the corner, where you can deploy your units in a really deep formation and just shoot down on the approaching orcs. Since you're an attacker, they will wait for their reinforcements, and they will actually wait for your reinforcements as well, which is what you want. If Greenskins have Mangler Squigs, this is your top priority to kill. They are really easy to take down with Death Frost and with single characters. You can charge them and kill them in melee, but the last thing you want is to allow these units to get into your infantry. So at the beginning of the battle, you want to snipe their spellcasters. After a couple of casts, this will activate their army and they will start approaching. You can see the formation here. It's a huge deep pocket, and you can shoot down on the enemies. So the tactic against Greenskins is pretty much the same. They're pretty similar to Skaven. They have huge numbers. A lot of their infantry also has shields, which negate some of your small missile fire. So it's really important to have good magic against them. Orcs are even easier to deal with than the Skaven, because they also have larger units. Larger units means they are easier to shoot down, unlike Skaven, plus they don't have the regen on a lot of their units like the Skaven do. So once there is a huge blob, the spellcaster is going in, casting Glacial Blast and the Hawks of Mishka and ranking up the damage and kills. You can still expect the battles to be messy, because orcs do a lot of damage, and they will definitely break your first line, even kill your first line, and collapse on the second and on the third and so on. That's why it's so important to have deep formations against these factions. As you can see here, Couple of Hawks of Mishka, and this wizard already got 300 kills. And this is how the battle progresses. They are just dying in this corridor. So the Ragnarok was shot down really easily with all of the focused fire of the arrows, and he's down. And there are the army losses. The battle is pretty much won. Now this is the same battle, which I played twice. And in this playthrough, I didn't want to use the pocket, but I wanted to play more on the open field and show you how to do it. So you have to, once again, use the deep formations. In this case, checkerboard. It's really good with archer units like Kossars. Once the reinforcements are in, the formation is set, and the Katarin can go in and start sniping their lords, which will activate Orc's army to start approaching. So again, the tactic is the same. You want to delay with your single entities and your frontline units, make the enemy units blob on them, and then cast Hawks of Mishka and cause mass rout. Also focusing fire onto any missile units and the Ragnarok Spider, and just slowly grinding down all of the orcs. So the Ragnarok Spider was focused fire by the Kossars and it quickly went down. So yeah, that's it about the Kislev guide for early game enemies. Thank you everyone for watching, I hope you liked it. Please let me know if you like these videos. I definitely plan to make more of those, and let me know in the comments of any problems you have in your campaigns that you would like me to cover. Also check out my previous video where I showed how to deal with Tamarkan with gunpowder armies, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.